welcome to For the Love of Men podcast. My name is Courtney Shand, and I'm hosting with my dear friend Brianna Mosier.
Hello.
The intention of this show is to bring together men and women to create healthy, polarized relationship dynamics by learning how to honor each other's natural masculine and feminine energetic core.
Yes.
I'm excited for this content as a follow-up to last week. But before we dive in, I have to hold my excitement back and introduce you to my friend Bree, which I'm also excited to do, and myself, and then we'll dive in. So
Yes.
Bree, tell my friends who you are, what you do.
Yeah. If you're new to the show, you haven't heard this a million times. My work in the world is helping really high-achieving, driven women access and embody their feminine energy and start to break patterns in their dating experience, start to attract and healthier partners, show up more empowered feminine, as well as learn to date in very drama-free ways, which today will really help with. Part of my background is also in sex, love, and intimacy work, so a lot of times I work with clients on exploring and expanding their pleasure as well. Courtney, the boundary queen, what do you do?
I am a trauma-informed dietitian and a relationship mentor, and I really love helping women get into their body by healing some generational wounding that keeps us playing small and in that kind of childlike energy. So this is going to be really the best of both of our brains today. When we were mapping this out, I was like, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
We could talk about this all day. But I do that in the form of health. We talk about things that it takes for you to feel the most empowered in your life, setting the habits in place that you need, and also moving into the best version of yourself so that you can show up with your heart open and boundaried. Caveat, and boundaried, and really thrive, get the best out of yourself and out of your life.
Love it. What are we talking about today?
So the follow-up, last week we talked about the allure of the wounded masculine as to why men are hesitant to let go of this persona that they have been taught is masculinity. And the flip side of that is the thing that is keeping the dating space kind of locked in this grid, if you will, is that there's also an allure to the wounded feminine. We've been playing at this level, the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine coming together, really locking horns and making no strides towards progress. And then we talked about dating in the feminist landscape because that is just what's happening.
Yeah.
In order to elevate, both of us have to start working on rising from this wounded space on the masculine side and the feminine side. And you're probably not going to be attracted to the opposite person in their wounded space. So the women, a couple weeks ago we talked about, have been kind of like taking this on for a generation or two at this point. The men are starting to catch that wave too. And there is a higher level of dating here. And that's where we are always advocating that you play in the empowered paradigm, as we like to call it. So we're going to just talk a little bit about the wounded feminine today and why she can be so alluring and you want to hang on to this. We're just going to call a spade, talk about it.
You know, I think you teed it off so well when you said, for sports reference, when you said the old kind of paradigm idea of masculinity is what characterizes the wounded masculine, right? And I would say this idea of femininity that's perpetuated, especially, you know, with this patriarchal society that we've lived in, is very much characteristic of the wounded feminine. It's this idealistic feminine energy, but it's not solid. It's not sturdy. It's not grounded. It's like a house without a foundation, really. It's kind of rickety and is going to fall at the first tornado is sort of where it shows up in my mind. And I've been this person, so no judgment. We all have wounded feminine parts, but we're talking about when a woman is really displaying the wounded feminine energy, like she's walking in it. We want to talk to you about what it looks like, the allure of it, and the risk if you choose to get involved, because you do have free will.
I love the analogy of the house. If you want to move into that house, set up camp, and create a home together, there's some things you need to know.
There's risks involved.
Yeah. So first of all, who is the wounded feminine that we're talking about? Let's give her some definition so that you guys know what we're talking about.
So when I think of the wounded feminine, I think of a permeable membrane, if you will, right? She's sort of boundaryless, kind of like a puddle, like water without a container. The really attractive parts of her are often very sexy, very flirtatious. She's very loving, often very giving, incredibly loyal. And what you feel underneath, the more perceptive you become of energy, right, is that it's not quite solid. Like something about it feels off. You can't trust it. And we're going to talk about a little bit more of what that looks like. Wounded feminine is very boundaryless. Can't really see her. She's sort of a shapeshifter. Who do you need me to be? Who do I need to be in order to get you to pick me or to like me? I'm going to shapeshift into that, or a version of that when I'm around you, right? And again, she can draw you in because she's typically accessible, typically warm, typically inviting. If you're girlfriends with her, she will be the person who, I was telling Courtney, like hold the bucket for you as you process all your emotions, and she'll sit in it with you. But you could get sucked down into it with her because she lacks a lot of containment, discernment, agency, very damsel in distress. Am I getting ahead of myself? I feel like I'm just saying everything about the wounded feminine right now. What do you think, Courtney? Let me pass you the ball here. Sports reference number 2.
Wow. Up top. Is she a sporty girl or
fire? MVP. What?
No, I think you are hitting the nail on the head. There's a lot of there are almost no boundaries outgoing. So like everything on the inside just comes out. She has no awareness of like the velocity of her emotions coming out, the intensity of what it feels like to be on the other side of that, because she has no boundaries outgoing. If anything, she has boundaries that are incoming, which means that she's going to play that damsel in distress energy because she can't get what she needs. So she's only working like from the inside out in an unhealthy way, and it's going to create that weird kind of like pull on you of like, I need you to be this because I've been this for you. She takes the reciprocity that is innate to feminine energy and like cranks it up to the 10th degree because she can't get what she needs. There's never enough. There's no bottom to her need of emotional validation or containment. She's kind of like looking for that experience, and she can't create it on her own. What you were saying of the agency. She can't create it on her own, so she needs it to be coming in. She's simultaneously blocking it and dumping at the same time. It's a real fun mix. Been her, so we're not judging. It just is. It just is part of it.
It just is.
Yeah.
I love. Sorry, I think I tapped my speaker. If you're on YouTube, the bottomless pit. That is exactly what it is. When you're wounded feminine, you don't feel like you feel as if your needs depend on other people meeting them. And then you don't know how to soothe yourself when you do feel anxious or you feel sad or you feel lonely. She's a pulling energy. I'm going to pull on Courtney to take my emotions. Or I'm going to pull on someone I'm dating to validate me or be there for me because I don't know how to sit in this on my own. That's very different than leaning on social support, right? The empowered feminine will lean on social support, but she knows she's got it. And it's just about having someone be in it with her as she's got it. It's like, let's hold hands and walk the path together. The wounded feminine is like, I need to climb on your back. I can't do this on my own.
Carry me.
Can I get inside your shirt? Like, how close can I be? Right? There's not a lot of boundary. And what you were saying is so important. This often is because she tends to overgive too. She tends to be the friend that's like, anything you need, I'm down. I'll be there. I'll take care of you. I'll listen to your emotions. So then when you're in relationship with her, she inherently expects the same thing. And if you try to hit her with a boundary, what you're probably going to get is a lot of like feelings of this person doesn't care about me, or this person doesn't want me, or they must not love how I love. Like, I'm a devoted, selfless lover. Wounded feminine is a loss of self. It's really just a loss of self and a seeking safety and validation and enoughness in other people. Callie needs some love right now. Courtney's cat.
She is needing a little bit of attention.
Who's generally very empowered feminine.
Which is why when she says, I need some love, I know. I hear you, sis.
She means
Come
it.
here, babe.
Mm-hmm.
Come here, babe. All right.
Welcome to the
You
show,
want to be part of the
Callie.
podcast. I know.
We're speaking on wounded feminine.
She needs to be part of the podcast as the Queen Callie.
Okay, Callie.
I love that you said that because, yes, I think all of this is nuance. When we talked about, and if this is something that you're like, what the heck, I've never heard of this before, you're probably new to the show, I would say go back and listen to episode 5.
Yes.
We define what we mean by wounded feminine versus empowered feminine. This is nuanced conversation. So this is not like broad brushstrokes, rules kind of that we're enforcing. Just a caveat there. Because there is an element of that to the feminine. This is just kind of like the undefined, I like to think of it as like the immature or the child version of feminine energy, where she can be a little tantrumy because she has not developed those skills for herself yet. She has only ever experienced them from the outside and is dependent on them coming from the outside. And she will use whatever means necessary, sexual energy, attention, tantrums, manipulation, emotional pulling to get those needs met. So this isn't a judgment of her. This is like her doing the best she can with what she knows. We're just giving you a new knowing so that you know there's another option here.
So well said.
Thanks.
So well said. Don't forget, when we talk about wounded energies, they're wounds.
Right.
They come from wounds. They typically, childhood wounds or past partner wounds, can exacerbate it. But typically that's somebody who's had an influence, either seen a display of wounded feminine, which could have been displayed in either parent, caregiver, by the way. Mm-hmm. It could be in the father figure, it could be in a mother figure. But if it's what she knows, typically, I find a lot of women who are in their wounded feminine did see a totally selfless partner. Mm-hmm. And she defined, well, this is love. If I completely give all of myself with no boundary, that's how I love somebody. I used to live in this. And you made a great point when you said the natural reciprocity of the feminine, this is different than that. Empowered feminine energy is a natural multiplier. You give her love, 10x. You give her an idea, 10x. You give her money, 10x. You give her her beautiful body, she'll make another human. Like, the feminine just multiplies so much. But with the wounded feminine, she will give, overfunction, get depleted, and then expect other people to do the same thing because that's how she is, which is creating a really dysfunctional dynamic in all her relationships. Because we need boundaries to function in healthy relationships. My brilliant friend Courtney always says, boundaries are how we see people. It's how we know what matters to them. It's how we know their value system. The wounded feminine really lacks and or loses her sense of self, usually because she's not ground into it on her own yet. Mm-hmm. And until she does, she'll probably find herself drawing in partners who are also a little bit in their dysfunctional, wounded. But you can shift into your empowered feminine.
Yeah.
Totally.
One last thing before we move on that is, I think this is actually, I would argue that she doesn't have a sense of self because she never had one.
Ooh.
My clients, I don't know about your clients, but my clients show up and it is like doing this level of work. They've been like playing like this their whole life where they kind of can't see themselves because they were not, that wasn't something that was available. So they were taught, they very much play this role and they come to adulthood feeling like a shell of a person. I'm doing all the right things. Why is he not blank? Why is he not attracted to me? Why is he not moving the commitment forward? Why can I not make XYZ happen? And it's because they actually have not done a ton of exploration inside. They may be very aware of their emotions, which is different than self-awareness. You're not able to use your emotions. Being aware of them and being able to use them as guidance are very different things.
Say more about that if there's more.
We had written down just as a note, I think women are kind of socialized in what works from a very young age. These qualities that are desirable, get me attention, get my needs met, help me move forward in life, are not the same qualities that you need to thrive as an adult. Being compliant, being the team player, being the one that is willing to sacrifice things. We learn these patterns early on and then we're kind of like reinforced and applauded for them. And I would say the men have a very comparable thing to this. So men that are listening, you guys have expressed this before, that like I was rewarded for being the man of the house, giving up everything, not following what I wanted, blah, blah, blah. No, not blah, 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 but more and more. And I would say that this is why they end up feeling like they're in this kind of like cage of good girl energy. They can't play outside of that cage because they're unsafe. They don't know how to create safety for themselves, and therefore they never fully are able to express themselves in their full feminine energy. Which for my clients, we talk about your like the gifts that you're supposed to be sharing with the world, the magic that you have, that you are supposed to be sharing in a big way. You have this huge influence that you can have, but until we explore that inner world and start learning how to not only digest some of these emotions so that they're not so big and you're not getting like overwhelmed all the time, and also what they mean. You're not going to feel like you're making progress in your life. You're going to feel like you're kind of like swirling, and also feeling kind of like a balloon that's you've let go of, just kind of like floating around. I wouldn't even say that it's swirling. It really is like you're just floating around untethered, aimlessly, not able to direct yourself, and that can be really frustrating. I know my clients feel frustration. That's one that they feel, but they're not quite sure how to get through it or what to do with it, and it's because they've only ever played by the rules, and the rules are not working for what they deeply desire.
Oof. Okay, before we move
that was
on,
good. I know you got something. I'm gonna pass the ball.
It just totally, this is why we work, right? We just spark each other. It's like, ooh, that, oh yes. I love what you just said. It reminds me of when I often work with clients who are getting out of kind of abusive relationships and helping them recalibrate to healthy relationships. That is my specialty, by the way.
Yes.
Especially for the high achieving driven woman, because of exactly this. That woman, the high achieving, successful, ambitious, the woman who got voted most likely to be successful, like, is often trapped in this box of what's the right thing to do, not what is the authentic thing. What is my expression? I have goosebumps. Like, what is my soul's gift coming out? But very much, how do I stay safe? How do I be chosen? How do I be wanted? And so the phrase I often say is the skills that you learn to survive are not always the skills that you need to thrive. The woman who has it all together, if she's done this work, great. If she's come through my program, great. She's got it figured out, right? But a lot of times underneath these really high achieving, powerful women is an inner chill girl. And this draws in really wounded masculine partners, because wounded masculine partners are going to be attracted to someone who appears like they have it all together and is very successful, has high amounts of empathy and compassion, and then she doesn't realize is letting her get manipulated, right? And they pull on her empathy, pull on her compassion. So I know we're giving you the experience of what it's like to be with the wounded feminine, but I'm really glad we took it to this place of the experience of being the wounded feminine is you're often just trying to get it right and stay safe. Yep. That's how you identify with it.
Yep.
Anything outside of those, if they don't like me, if I don't have validation, if he doesn't choose me, is perceived as a threat. And that's why it's so hard to break out of that pattern. So she will swallow how she feels. She will compromise every single time to make sure that she's chosen. She might show up with pick me energy even when she doesn't like want to, but it's like this compulsion, Yep. Because those emotional needs she hasn't healed and taken care of on her own. It will shock you how many successful, high achieving women internally feel this way. And if you need help, I'm your girl. I know you, I get you, I've got you. We can shift out of this. Okay.
Amazing.
That was like, I needed to just
let
get
it
that out.
Yes. Yes. I love that. And I love that I think that is probably like such a great distinction, is there's two sides of this coin where it will play out as either you feeling like, you presenting as you have it all together, but feeling completely like, what the heck am I doing?
I'm checking the boxes, but yeah.
Yeah. Or kind of like grasping at straws of like, I have no idea what to even do. And how to get this thing moving. And it's interesting because both of those are very much the wound of the feminine. Not having enough like propulsion, or having too much propulsion and not enough direction from your soul, from your insides. That's my thought on it.
Love it.
Yeah. As we've mentioned with the wounded masculine, this is a spectrum. We talk about the empowered feminine. If the empowered feminine is over here, we've got the wounded feminine, and then we've got this like codependent, like deep end of the swimming pool, kind of like the wounded masculine to narcissist, deep end of the swimming pool. The deeply codependent part, we all have codependent parts. That's fine. Like that is just what it is. I think the distinction of what makes it codependent in an unhealthy way is, because I think that term gets thrown around a lot and it kind of grates my nerve a little bit, is your willingness to participate, how much like conscious awareness you feel like you have of what's happening. If you just can't let go and it's this like compulsion driving you, that is probably that deep end codependent part of you, and you will know what that feels like because we've all been there, where you're like, I can see that there's another option, but I cannot imagine, kind of like the fish in water thing, like I cannot imagine another experience than this. It's outside of like perceptibility. So we've got the empowered feminine, wounded feminine, and then, you know, kind of wounded feminine tendencies, and then codependency. Codependence and narcissist, that's a very commonly talked about dynamic. Bree is your girl if that is something that you're struggling with.
I got you.
That's I would say absolutely in her zone of genius.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. So it is on a spectrum. That's all that I wanted to say, is you can find yourself at different points, and exactly what you were saying earlier is there are points of this where your wounds will come up. The more you're kind of like moving towards the empowered feminine, you will still have these wounded parts that show up. It doesn't make you less of an empowered feminine woman. It doesn't mean that you're like codependent. It just means that you have some wounds to pay attention to. And you probably need some skills to help with that.
The defining characteristic you said is if it's a compulsion, you can't help it. It's almost happening before you can even get your feet under you. You're out the door.
Yep.
You know you're in a little bit deeper there. But the more that you move toward empowered feminine, I'm willing to bet you feel the same way. I have a compulsion toward wounded feminine tendencies at times throughout probably every day. I'm like, oh, I'd like to do this. But you practice this skill set of, lots of things. Like I teach in Soft and Secure, and I'm sure you teach in your feminine energy programs, learning to slow it down and be with the emotions and have discernment and practice containment. And over time that wound heals, and then you notice what used to be like, I'm somersaulting out the door, toward that I need to get this need met. Now you know how to be like, wow, you develop such emotional intelligence of, I have this need. What does this tell me about myself, right? How can I show myself love here? What's my agency within this? Let me sit with it for a while. Let me talk it out. Let me feel into it. You have a lot more agency. So even if the most empowered feminine woman in the world, if she tried to tell you she didn't have wounded feminine parts, I wouldn't believe her, because we are human and it is okay. Just like it's okay to have wounded masculine parts. And the key is, do you have agency to open up choices and to lead yourself in a different direction when you do get triggered and your wounds do come up? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked about it at the beginning. This is getting to be a juicy episode.
Juicy.
I mean, I would say that this is bordering on coaching, but really this is scratching the surface. I know my program, and I know your program. Like, this is just like scratch.
This is just identifying it for you.
Yep.
This isn't solving it yet at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. So, risks. Let's talk about the risks and benefits for this particular energy type.
So the risks are a little intense.
Maybe we'll start with the benefits.
Okay.
How about that?
You start with the benefit, because I'm in risk land over here.
Okay, great. I'd love to. Okay, so I would say one of the gifts, if you will, of the wounded feminine is this sense of, we already said availability. She has this like open heart, this emotional center that she is very aware of typically. She's aware of it, not necessarily masterful with using it yet, but she is very aware of these emotions and is available. And so that's going to be a huge draw to potential partners of, wow, she's so, like, I've never felt this way around anyone before. She's so able to touch in her emotions, and she makes me get in touch with my emotions and
softens me. Yeah.
I experience a whole new quality of life. There's color in my life now. And okay, that's the benefit. That's a huge gift. Even wounded feminine can create this experience for men. So we're doing this for men so that you can start to identify what we mean, the nuance of wounded feminine versus empowered feminine. So risk land, go for it.
Oh, that's the only benefit of the wounded feminine. Also, she's just very alluring in the beginning too, right? Like her sexual energy is often a little bit more accessible. She's very pleasing most of the time. But again, you're getting a variation of what she knows will please you. So you're not really seeing an authentic, you don't really get to see your most authentic self or your most authentic person until they do quite a bit of healing on their wounding to show up that way. Because she, like you were saying, she doesn't even really know who she is. So the risks of that, I always define intimacy as staying connected to someone else while you stay connected to yourself. If you lose connection to yourself and you start to just consume another person, which is what the wounded feminine often does, where are you? There is no intimacy there. You're just kind of, she's just kind of holding the bucket for the partner. So while you might get somebody who's very agreeable and pleasing and all those things, you're not going to feel that true, like, real intimate emotional soul to soul connection because she's not connected to herself there yet. She has a lot of emotions, and like Courtney was saying, she's in touch with them all, but she doesn't know how to distill them and have discernment with them and then show up with, okay, I felt all these things, here's how I really am. So the other risk with that is you might get dumped on emotionally a lot because she doesn't have a lot of boundaries. She's probably going to pull on you, want you to listen to all the things, every single nuance. Often with wounded feminine too, little things can trigger her, again, because she doesn't have that discernment or agency. So she's bothered that you didn't call her at this exact time, or I'm just making things up, whatever it might be, which is a reasonable need, obviously, in different contexts. I'm just giving you an example. But she might nitpick things like that, and something very small can turn into a big explosion for the wounded feminine. What would you add?
Yeah, I would say that this is where men, remember when you told us that one of the things that makes you feel like emotional expression with your female partner is unsafe is that she uses it against you, or she can't take feedback without projecting it back on you. This is where it's coming from. This is where that's coming from, is she can't be with your emotions because it's sending hers into chaos and she has no way of grounding them.
Well, such a good point.
Yeah. So it is going to create emotional unsafety for you as the masculine partner if you move into this metaphoric house. Can be super available emotionally, and the thing to look for is, can she reground herself? I would say that would be the green flag of, and we have a whole episode on green flags for feminine energy, but can she reground herself in her emotions while you're being emotional as well? That will create that intimacy, like you said. She's not losing herself. She's not like floating around as a balloon that's been let go. She will be able to kind of bring herself back down. Not immediately maybe, but that she does have that capacity to come back to neutral.
Yeah, that is one of the green flags to look for with the empowered feminine, right? I would call it like containment. I like what you're saying, grounding, same thing. Because the empowered feminine still has that emotional expression.
Yep.
The other risk of wounded feminine, I would say, I'll say the benefit is she will let you help her and be there for her.
Go there.
She will also be the damsel in distress who needs you to help her and be there for her all the time. It is like the bottomless pit, whether it's emotional, physical, whatever it might be. That is, the risk you run is kind of it's just a pulling feeling. It just feels very pulling. The other risk with wounded feminine is passive aggressive, silent treatment, these kind of dysfunctional ways of coping. And any coping mechanism, when done with awareness and intention, can be fine, right? I won't open that whole can of worms, but we shouldn't be shaming the coping mechanism. But at some point, coping mechanisms like that, like silent treatment, like passive aggressiveness, like emotional dumping, spilling, projecting onto other people, creates an environment of lack of safety for the person you're in partnership with. Because that doesn't feel good. When someone's super reactive and they hang up the phone and there's all this drama, like if you're experiencing drama, that tells you there's wounded feminine energy in the connection. I don't know if it's you, I don't know if it's her, but there's some drama.
It's there.
And you're exhausted. Yeah.
One more thing that I have is that kind of like dependent state, I think, is the allure for some men who may not have, who are still operating in that kind of old paradigm of masculinity, that my value is in being needed, which is again also very wounded feminine at the heart, because she's doing the same thing. But if your value comes from being needed and you're not able to source your own sense of self in any other context than how much people need you, it is going to create this like perfect match of draining energy where she always needs you and you always get to be needed. That can be very alluring. It can be very intoxicating to have that much of our need met all at once, but it just fizzles out because it's not a sustainable dynamic. And that's where I think people get lost. They don't have a way of like, okay, now what do we want to grow this connection into? Cool, you have this need, and cool, I have this need too. They can fit together perfectly, a little puzzle piece situation, but what do we want this connection to grow into and let it mature?
Well said. I was trying to think of a pop culture reference of somebody who is wounded, like a character, you know? And all I can really think about is when you're watching, I don't know if anyone else likes dating reality TV shows. I don't shame myself for this, okay?
Breeze jam, yeah.
I like it, whatever. Say what you want. But a lot of times women are very wounded feminine. The cattiness, the pettiness, the mean girl mentality. That's so funny. I've been saying these mean girl quotes all day, and Courtney's not seeing Mean Girls, so they're just like going right over her head.
A long time.
Comedic genius is just being dropped on the floor. But in the dating reality TV shows, a lot of times women are very like seeking attention, validation, who's going to get the guy, be the pick me, choose me. And then it's petty between them. You know, she's petty with other girlfriends too. That's a pretty good warning sign of wounded feminine, right? If there's a lot of drama in her friend group, depending on how she's contributing, you don't know, it could be the other person, but that's another, subtle way you can pick up on it.
The other thing that I wanted to say is she can be very loyal.
Oh yes,
a woman in her wounded feminine, she will feel like loyalty personified. You need something, I'm there. You have an emotion, I will be there to soothe you. You want me to stay home when I really wanted to go out dancing? Okay, well, I understand you would like to stay home. Yeah, that's fine. We can stay home and I'll do that with you. I would want you to do that with me. Again, it's going back to this like overuse of the reciprocity law or agreement, like a subtle reciprocity agreement. It's like to the 9, where she will feel like a shadow friend, like a shadow pet. She will follow you around and be happy to just like be in your presence. And it can feel really great if you have that wounded masculine need to be seen in that way. That's your girl. The flip side is that she's not bringing much of herself along. She is just mirroring to you yourself. And if you are someone that is craving a little depth, you cannot create a relationship with a mirror in real life, it's not going to work. There's nothing there except for yourself. So at some point you will run into this like, I actually need a little more than this 2-dimensional reflection of me.
And when you're off doing your own thing, pursuing your career, your business with your friends,
pining.
Drama.
Pining.
Another movie quote. Yeah, she'll be pulling. It will be a pull, and there's the risk of it getting taken really personally, right? Like, how can you possibly be out with your friends and not thinking about me? Because she has so many unprocessed wounds around her self-worth and being chosen and feeling safe. Like, all of it gets triggered until she cleans that up. It is gonna feel like pull. Well, I'll just come with you. Well, I'll go everywhere with you. I'll do everything with you. It's like that, like shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it may feel really good. And I would say that is an allure of the wounded feminine, is she is like your best friend, your confidant, your built-in, like, you know, party girl energy, like, let's go, it's fun, let's do whatever, be free-spirited together. And you will run into the rub of her not being able to have time to herself either. And actually, I've heard this from several men where the woman is like, yeah, I'll come sit with you while you play video games with your buddies online. And while you're playing video games with your friends online, she's literally sitting on the other side of the couch, sulking. Not like having a super fun time. You feel split. You're like somewhat responsible because you did say, yeah, come on over. And also you want to be playing with your friends, which makes total sense too. And it's coming from this wounded feminine place of her not, her really being, her job is to be the reflection. She doesn't have this like self to bring to the dynamic to create a little more dimensionality.
Well said. Genius. Thanks. What's next?
Well, I wanted to caveat that because the opposite of this, and this is where the nuance is, the wounded feminine is going to be kind of that like stuck on you energy, and it will feel like kind of like peeling, you know, something very sticky off if that's too much for you. The empowered feminine energy is going to be able to sit with you with a little space. They're like true intimacy, I think, is like this. It is, and you can't see my hands if you're not watching on YouTube, but you should be watching on YouTube.
It's like parallel.
Parallel. We're parallel.
Think of two hands almost clapping, but not.
Yeah, the air clap.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
And if you do that with your hands, you can feel a little like pulse of energy between them. It is that connection where I can feel what the other hand is doing, even if it was not my hand, just in this like 1 inch apart kind of space. It's very different than being like tethered to you and fused and fingers interlaced kind of thing. And the difference is how this will play out in the empowered feminine is loyalty for the empowered feminine energy doesn't mean that she won't sacrifice. It means she will only sacrifice to the point at which the higher vision that she has kind of like, not married, but she has agreed to, is being supported. In the same way that an empowered masculine man will not sacrifice himself for the sake of drama, for the sake of your, you know, emotional tantrums. Those will just become a frustration point. He is invested in something bigger. He is willing to sacrifice in lots of ways for something bigger. Same thing for her. She is willing to sacrifice in lots of ways for the sake of something bigger. But as soon as that loyalty, and it will be a lot clearer for the empowered fan. I love that you said this earlier. It will be clearer when you're in your empowered energy where the line is of this is making me sacrifice myself for you. It's different than being selfless in a healthy, loving way. I can't give up myself for you over and over again and me still have a self. That's too much of a risk to my health. Versus I will hold you and your humanness, and not every one of my needs gets to be met by you. And I can be with that because I have enough of myself. I have enough, you know, support network. I have enough skills within myself to meet those needs too. It's not going to feel awesome. That's the sacrifice part. It's not going to feel amazing every day. But in order to create that healthy level of intimacy, I can't be completely dependent on you for every one of my needs to be met. That's unrealistic. And that's the difference. The point to which it is sacrificing that is no longer for the higher vision or the higher good is where she will have to say, this is my limit, I have to leave. And she will.
And she'll have limits.
She will.
And she's probably aware of, or even becoming aware of. Sometimes you don't know your limit till you bump against it, right? That's when you really define, what is my boundary here? But she will also have boundaries, and the empowered feminine woman will probably have her own thing going on too. Happy to spend time by herself. She's probably got her own mission, her own purpose intact, whether it's career, passion, hobby, whatever it might be. But she'll have a life outside of you, like Courtney's saying, with lots of resources, ways to get connection, ways to get intimacy. While yes, your partnership might be the number one mostly source of those things. And she has agency in other ways. So I think, a green flag you could look for when you're dating for empowered feminine is her sharing her boundaries and her respecting your boundaries. And I would say the same thing to women when they're dating. How is a man when you set a boundary with him? And does he share his own boundaries? Because people who boundary people love boundaried people. Another Courtneyism. They do, because if you have boundaries, I know you have boundaries, I get to have boundaries too. We both know how to respect each other's boundaries. Excellent. This probably means that we can also have more open communication, because you had to arrive at that boundary somehow, so you had the emotional intelligence to do it. Yeah.
Green flag.
So I would pay attention to that. Does she have her own life on the outside? That's green flag. Does she set boundaries and share what she wants, needs, desires with you? Green flag. Honestly, even if she says, hey, I'd really like some more consistent communication, that's a green flag. That's a woman who can advocate for her needs and tell you really lovingly what she wants. You want that. That's going to keep you out of drama zone. Wounded feminine's very read my mind. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to expect.
That's a good,
yeah, I expect you to solve it. I expect you to be a mind reader. Empowered feminine will go, he probably doesn't know that I want this. Otherwise, he'd probably be trying to give it to me because she probably believes the best in you. So she'll say, hey, I'm really loving getting to know you. I'd love to chat more. What do you think? Do you have space for that? By the way, if you want to learn how to communicate in empowered feminine ways, I have a whole module on that in Soft and Secure for my women listening. It is a really good. That's a good example of something you could say, though. I gave you a coaching gem for free.
Such a great piece of awareness to have.
Yeah.
Because I love that you said that. If you are able to give the benefit of the doubt, super empowered thing. You can't do that when you're fighting for your needs. When you're kind of fighting for your life down here in the wounded spectrum, everything is a zero-sum game. In the empowered paradigm, it is a multiplication game. You get more, I get more. I give more, you give more. That's the game that we get to play. That's what we're advocating for. So when we're talking about the new kind of landscape of dating, we don't have to continue playing in this zero-sum land. We can all elevate, and it takes some effort to equally kind of bring both parties online and start looking for each other up here. We want more than anything for the men that are listening. This is the empowered feminine woman is the woman that we're you will be served well by making this choice.
And she will bring the best out of you.
She will bring the best out of you. She will multiply everything in your life. Happiness multiplied. Money multiplied. We were talking about this the other day.
Yeah.
The multiplication factor of an empowered feminine woman,
yeah,
in my mind, is the best ROI a man can make. And I think men know this. I do think that men in men's circles do talk about this.
Empowered men know the value of empowered women. Yeah.
Yes. And ancient. This is not news. We just haven't known how to get there. And we're spilling the tea on how to get there.
Tea's been spilled. It's all over the floor.
So men, we want this type of woman for you. And ladies, we know the process. Both of us have walked this road.
Yeah.
Of straightening the crown, earning the crown.
Yeah, it was earned.
It's a hard-earned crown, and we applaud anyone at any point in their journey because it is not for the faint of heart. And my hope is that in this episode, if you're feeling like, wow, I'm resonating with that feels kind of like where I'm at, and I love that you always say you can feel a little embarrassed about it, and that's okay, because there is a healthy amount of embarrassment to realize like, oh, I've not been doing that, and there's something else I can do. That's a Briism.
It's like guilt, right? When you feel guilty, you don't need to feel shame about feeling guilt, because that tells you have a moral compass in there, and who you're being is not congruent with the person you know yourself to be and who you can be. So if you hear this and you feel that like, oh, I'm embarrassed, like Courtney's saying, just let it be an awareness that there's a new version of you that wants to come through. And how exciting. And when you get to that point, wow, there's a new version that wants to come through, as long as you keep leading yourself, you get to get there.
She's coming.
You get to get there. Okay,
She's
sorry,
on
I
her way.
hijacked you. This just really got me excited.
Half your show too.
That's true. Oh my god, am I also a co-host? It's so weird.
Yeah, so the reason that we brought this up and had this little series is because our whole goal is to create more elevated dating experience. We want to help you feel like you're more in your empowered energy more often, and you're attracted to empowered people more often, because life is easier. Like, life gets to be easier. We talked about drama being one of the main, like, defining attributes of the wounded feminine being present. One of the things that I hear from men all the time is like, she's so dramatic, she brings so much drama, I don't need any of that drama. Something I hear from women all the time is like, I don't need any of that drama. And it's keeping us from meeting other potential really healthy partners. It's keeping us from loving women, it's keeping us from loving men, it's keeping men from loving women well, and vice versa. And it's keeping us from loving each other well, from being good friends, from being good community for each other when there's a lot of drama and when we don't have a lot of skill to navigate that in an empowered way. It keeps us from getting more needs met than we could have. So that's my soapbox.
And
thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
I'd like to slide on your soapbox quickly before you get
Come on
off.
over, girlfriend.
It also keeps you from your own sense of inner peace.
Oh,
You know, I always say to my clients, like, listen, do this healing work. You want to attract in more aligned partners. You want to show up as a healthier partner. I've got you. We can do that. And I don't want you to do this because you want a partner. Do it for you. Do it because you want to self-actualize, because you want to be at peace in your mind, because you want to live drama-free. I am telling you, the graduation from wounded feminine to empowered feminine opens up so much space to enjoy life and not get sucked into circuits that just drain your energy. Drama loop, drama loop, drama loop. You can ruin your own days when you have wounded feminine energy because you're just spiraling in your head. Ask me how I know.
Yep.
You don't want to stay there. Your peace of mind, that you can float through the day, you can listen to a song in the car and you're just present, and you text your friends, and then you can actually really listen in conversations. And when you're in the bedroom being intimate with partners, you can feel things. You're there, you're tuned in, you're really connected. It is the honey of life. There's nothing more important, and maybe that's why we've done almost 100 episodes on this work. You have to heal that relationship with yourself to create higher quality relationship externally, with friends, family, partners, anything. And the more you do it, the more it serves you. I think it's Esther Perel who says the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our life. I would die on that hill. At the end of the day, it is gonna be, not to be dramatic, but when you're on your deathbed and you're thinking about all the things you did in your life, what are you thinking about the most? The people that you loved. You're not thinking, oh, at least I've got this money in the bank. Maybe you're proud of yourself for career accomplishments, things like that. I love that for you. But by far and large, I know that's not the right way to say it. I don't remember the right way to say it. Don't compare me. By far and large, it's going to be my best friend. Oh my God, my mom, my partner, my kids. Wow, these moments. Doing the work is so worth it. And if you don't know where to start, binge our show. Number 1, it's loaded with free content. We love you. We want you to do that.
Yes.
The only thing we would ask, if you're willing, is share it with somebody that you think it's going to be helpful to, because that helps us keep putting out free content. And we will do this for the longest. But it does help if the show grows, because admittedly it opens up opportunities for us to be able to create more content.
Do more. Yes.
To give to give more.
Yep.
If you need more formal support, Courtney has programs you've heard me mention. I do Soft and Secure Feminine Energy Healing and Embodiment program. It's kind of like you're getting ready to be ready for healthy love or reset. That one's a game changer. I'm so proud of it. It creates phenomenal results for clients. So feel free to, slide in my DMs on Instagram, do an application. You can jump into that. You have a great program for men. We have one for women as well, but I think the men listening might want to hear about that.
Yes. Because I have the feminine program, I made the masculine version because I was noticing that there is this need for the masculine to be supported in how to bring out this version that we're talking about. If you want to be a man who can meet an empowered feminine woman, there is some work specifically for you to do in order to create that space in your life to support her being that version. And it's called Rooted, is my masculine energy program. It is the counterpart to Arise, my feminine energy program. And I actually feel like Rooted is pretty amazing, actually. I said that last week too, but we get some quick turnarounds because a lot of times it is just a matter of new awareness and some new practical skills that will allow you not only to meet these type of women, identify them, meet them, support them, keep them happy. An empowered feminine energy woman is easy to keep happy because she is able to tell you what makes her happy.
And she's naturally happier.
Yeah. It's a small fanning here of the flame, but she's also able to show you exactly what makes her happy, which makes it easy for you
to win. Yeah.
Not literal points, just to win.
If you don't know, we once did a TikTok video on men play for points, and the TikTok community was very upset with that wording, which if you listen to the show, that's not what we meant. We basically meant men like to make their women happy. And women like to make their men happy too. Like, it's just human,
Healthy.
Long story short, we always laugh about that phrase.
Flayed.
Yeah.
Eaten alive.
Yes.
But
so
we joke about that now.
Those are the programs that would be great starts.
Yes. Episodes, I think I already pointed out. Episode number 5, Wounded versus Empowered Feminine Energy. Get to know what we're talking about. Episode 50 is another really good one of what that looks like in practice. And ladies, our favorite episode, the underrated episode of the whole thing, number 12. If you're listening to this and you're like, I think I might be spending too much time in my wounded feminine energy, episode 12, what it means to be an empowered feminine woman and have boundaries.
The unsung hero of our entire podcast. What's ironic is it's one of our least listened to episodes.
Shocks me because I think it is gold.
We just titled it wrong. I don't know, but like some marketing around that we could tweak. But the episode, actually, if you give it a shot, Court and I both, when we recorded it, we were like, this is it.
Damn. I needed this.
Proud of this.
This was the earning the crown.
This is for us also, I think.
Yes, when we talked about earning our crown, that was what we were talking about. That was the journey of earning our crown and starting to put some boundaries around us so that people can see us as the queens we are.
And have real intimacy.
Which
is what you want.
Yes. And then the green flags for the empowered feminine is episode 26. Men, go listen to that one because that is the cheat code of what you need to be looking for. If you are like, I can't quite tell the difference. I know drama, and then I know like she kind of has some drama, which is where a lot of the men that find my work find themselves, is they can't quite distinguish the difference. There's a little gray area for you. The obvious is obvious. The nuance is where you're getting lost. Episode 26 is
good for that.
Good for that one.
And everyone gets lost in nuance. I think honestly that's where, when people are dating with all my clients, the nuance is the key, which is why, private coaching can be really helpful too, right? Because you have someone in your back pocket, like Courtney or I, supporting you. You say the whole situation, and then you get a little bit more support on the nuance. But that episode is a great way too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Share the show if you found value in it. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at the For the Love of Men podcast, or For the Love of Men podcast on TikTok. We do go live on TikTok quite often. we will be even more, but when we do, if you want to catch us, that's a good spot. And my Instagram is Building Bree Coaching. Courtney's is Courtney_Shand across the board. And that's it. That's
all she wrote.
Bye. We'll see you guys next week.